At first, it sounds unbelievable. One of the most powerful brands on earth. A company whose logo is recognized in nearly every country. A corporation that has survived wars, recessions, pandemics, and cultural revolutions. And yet, behind closed doors, something shocking is being admitted. Not whispered by critics. Not shouted by politicians. But spoken calmly, directly, by the CEO himself. Everywhere he goes, people ask him the same question. Not about burgers. Not about profits. Not about expansion. They ask him, what is happening to Chicago? And when the head of a global empire starts questioning the safety of the city that hosts its headquarters, that's not gossip. That's a warning signal. For decades, Chicago wasn't just a city on a map for McDonald's. It was home. Legacy. Identity. The place where decisions shaping global food culture were made. But today, the conversation has shifted from pride to possibility. From commitment to contingency. The CEO has openly admitted that operating a global business from Chicago has become increasingly difficult. Not inconvenient. Not challenging. Difficult in a way that threatens the future. Executives don't want to move there anymore. Talented leaders refuse relocation offers. Families don't feel safe. And when fear enters a company's bloodstream, it changes everything. Because a business can survive higher costs. It can survive taxes. But it cannot survive if its people don't feel secure enough to show up. What makes this moment unsettling is that this isn't coming from a fragile startup or a struggling local chain. McDonald's operates in some of the toughest neighborhoods in America. Places where risk has always been part of the equation. And yet, downtown Chicago, once the heart of corporate prestige, has become too unstable to sustain locations, not because of profits, but because of safety. Let that sink in. Restaurants aren't closing because customers stopped buying burgers. They're closing because employees and customers are scared. Behind the scenes, the pressure is mounting. Labor costs have surged. Purchasing costs are up massively. Fixed costs continue climbing. But those numbers don't capture the full picture. What doesn't show up neatly on balance sheets is tension, conflict, fear. Daily incidents that make workers hesitate before clocking in. Situations that no spreadsheet can justify tolerating. And while all of this unfolds, something even more dangerous is happening quietly. Other cities are watching. Governors, mayors, economic development teams across America are calling, pitching, promising safer streets, lower taxes, friendlier business climates. They smell vulnerability. And in the corporate world, vulnerability attracts predators. McDonald's leadership has made one thing painfully clear: their commitment to Chicago is not unconditional. It never was. They answer to shareholders, not sentiment. And shareholders don't accept nostalgia as a strategy. Now here's where the story turns darker. Just a few years ago, McDonald's did the opposite of what companies usually do when they're nervous. They doubled down. They left a quiet suburb and poured hundreds of millions into a new headquarters in the heart of the city. The move was symbolic. A message that Chicago still mattered. That urban culture, young talent, and innovation were worth the risk. 7 years later, that confidence has eroded. When a company is willing to walk away from an investment of that scale, the situation has already crossed a line most people never see until it's too late. And this isn't happening in isolation. One by one, corporate giants have been packing up. Some leaving quietly. Some absorbing massive losses just to escape. Headquarters sold for fractions of their former value. Century-old relationships severed. Billion-dollar firms relocating overnight. And every departure sends a message louder than the last. Here's the midpoint truth that should genuinely unsettle you. Cities don't collapse all at once. They hollow out. Office buildings sit half-empty. Downtown streets lose foot traffic. Restaurants vanish. Schools weaken. Infrastructure decays. The talented leave first. Then the capital follows. And finally, the institutions that once defined the city start questioning whether staying makes sense at all. Chicago is showing classic symptoms of that cycle. Office vacancy rates are soaring. Job growth is lagging near the bottom nationally. Population loss is accelerating at a pace that's hard to ignore. People aren't just moving away, they're fleeing to neighboring states that offer lower taxes, safer communities, and a clearer future. Every few minutes, another resident leaves. Every year, entire towns shrink. And yet, instead of reversing course, leadership continues proposing new taxes. New burdens on the very companies still willing to stay. From the corporate perspective, that feels less like partnership and more like punishment. McDonald's leadership has identified the problems plainly. Crime that affects daily life, not just statistics. A business environment that's becoming less competitive by the year. And a mindset that feels defensive instead of ambitious. While other cities aggressively court growth, Chicago appears resigned to decline. That perception alone is deadly. Because corporations don't invest where leaders seem defeated. They invest where momentum exists. McDonald's has options. Plenty of them. States with no income tax. Cities actively rolling out red carpets. Places where safety isn't a negotiation and business is welcomed instead of tolerated. And if McDonald's leaves, it won't just be about jobs. It will be symbolic. An American institution quietly admitting that one of America's great cities is no longer worth the risk. That's when the real cascade begins. If McDonald's goes, every other major employer still hanging on will ask the same question: why are we here? And once that question spreads, answers come fast. This isn't about burgers. It's about trust, safety, stability, and the limits of patience. McDonald's tried. They invested. They stayed when others left. They warned politely. Then publicly. And now, the warning feels final. When a company with over 70 years of history in one state starts preparing exit strategies, something fundamental has broken. The golden arches don't threaten. They calculate. And right now, the math is changing. If you enjoy uncovering the hidden forces shaping cities, economies, and the quiet decisions that change history, this is exactly what we explore here. This is Odd World Files. And if you're new here, make sure you subscribe, because the most important collapses don't happen loudly, they happen right in front of us, while we're still looking away.